So with this first card, I thought I would start just by showing you the basic principles of exactly how we're going to do the stamping and then attach the little buttons around. And this is really the true concept of what you get in this kit. And what you'll see is we've got tons and tons of stamps in this collection. So there are so many different ways you can take the same concept and use it over and over again. Now, let's start with a little bit of the stamping, should we? Now, if you come into your box, you'll see that you've got loads and loads of stamps. And what I thought I would do is bring them stamps out and give you a few tips on if you're using these for the first time. So these are literally, this is a brand new box. I'm going to get out the stamp that I want to use and we are going to use it for the very, very first time. So when you take them out, what you'll see is you've got all the designs there on the sheet. And actually, when we peel the back, you can see these are the actual stamp bits. So on the reverse here, when we take this away, everything else, you can see the design on one side and work with it from the other. Now, I'm going to work from the flowers here. And when I lift this off, you can see you've got that printed element below. And I'll just put a little bit of card behind so that you can see it. So you can see exactly where that stamp will go next time we want to come and return it, right? And I'm going to use it on a rocker block. So when we're using a rocker block, what you're going to do is you're going to position the stamp right in the middle of the block. And then can you see you've got that curvature on the block so that when we're going to stamp with it, we're going to be able to start at one side and rock from heel to toe. Now, bit of a tip here. If this is the first time that you've used this stamp, what you'll find is with any acrylic stamps, they've got a bit of a surface to them and they don't stamp quite as well. In fact, you know what? I'll show you it so that it means a little bit more, okay? Let's take out a bit of scrap card here, all right? So if I just take a little bit of ink, pop the ink onto the stamp and stamp this. So a brand new stamp, first time you're seeing it used. And when I rock from heel to toe and stamp this, what you'll see if you have a little look right up close is you can see that it's okay, but it's a little bit bubbly there, right? So it's not a perfect impression. What you can do is get like a rough surface. So I find these are brilliant. You know, it's just got a little bit of Velcro on it. Just smush over the surface of the stamp. And all it does is it primes the stamp. So you're only ever going to have to do this the very first time that you use the stamp, okay? Now if I take that, pop the ink on, you can see already that the ink is grabbing so much better onto that. And if I stamp it alongside the first one that we did, you'll see you get a much crisper image on there. So you can see it just looks a little bit darker. It's a little bit less bubbly, okay? Now, what I've done is I've just taken that and I've done one that I've already cut out, just so that we're ready to work. So I've just cut around it at the size of the stamp, okay? And what I am going to do is I'm just going to take a couple of little scrap bits of paper and I'm going to stamp again onto the paper and do a little bit of paper piecing. So you'll see what I mean in just a second, okay? So if I take these, we're going to stamp just the elements. So all I want is the vase. And if I bring back in the finished card, this is what we're working towards, you see. So having the vase at different levels and different colours, okay? So if I just, again, all I need to ink up this time is the stamp, the vase part. We're going to stamp onto here, okay? We're going to do the same, always bringing the ink back in. We're going to stamp on the different levels, and we can do exactly the same with this piece here. And then we've got the green too, all right? And then just, clean that up. Just with a pair of scissors, all we're going to do is I've done the inside of the vase for this one. So we're just going to cut this away completely. Okay. And we're going to do the same with the other two pieces. And then I'm going to run them through my Xyron machine. So once they've been through the Xyron, you see all of these become sticky so that we can literally position them over each of these. So can you see this is just going to position over the top and just enable you to have that kind of coloured paper piecing. And it's just a different way of using your coloured papers in here. If you don't want to necessarily be doing colouring in, you know, we want a pop of colour in here, but using the papers that we've got in the kit, it's a great way to do that, okay? So you can see there we've got a lovely coloured vase now, and all we've done is printed onto the coloured papers that we had to work with, all right? Now, that is going to be ready for us to add our buttons onto. But what I'll do is I'll put the buttons on the card once we've got the card created. So let's start with the base of the card. Now, I've taken one of the cards from the kit, and what I've done is I've just gone with a nice simple one of the smaller format half fold cards, and then I've just cut a bit of the patterned paper, and we always put the patterned paper really big so that you've got different different sizes you can cut down, so you'd actually get quite a few pieces from here. Now, when we're doing our matting and layering, I would definitely recommend using a wet glue, such as the one here, because a wet glue gives you that little bit of manoeuvrability time. So I'm putting my glue all the way to the edges, and I'm going to manoeuvre that into place on the first piece. So can you see, when I say manoeuvrability, it means you don't have to get it spot in exactly the right place from the off. You can pop it down. Same here, I'm just making sure I go right to the edges, but not too far to the edges that it's going to squirt out. Although if you are using the Floral all purpose, the great thing is that if it does ooze out, like what we've got here, you can just rub it away. So it's easy enough to rub away like this. There we go. So I'm going to just rub that little bit of ooze out there. I think that was the only piece we had on the whole card. Manoeuvred them mats and layers into place perfectly, and we've got that nice base. And that would work either as a tent fold or a side fold card. So you can see it could work either way for me here. Now I'm going to use it as a side fold. I've just done a little strip as well to go down the edge, and I've cut these strips to the full length of the card. So just do the same again, taking that, manoeuvring it into place on the card. So can you see I've done that, not the size of the mat and layer, I've done this the full length of the card, and actually that's a little bit far along, so I've just got that manoeuvrability, and then the bit that's oozed out just easy rubs away. That's what I mean when I say it's great to use a glue like this. You know, use your all-purpose glue, and you've got that time to correct any mistakes. Or we don't have mistakes in craft, we just have a few happy accidents or change our mind as we're going along. Right, so there's the base of the card ready to go, and it's quite a good layout to use this one irrespective of what type of card you're making. Can you see when I'm going to position that on there, it just balances the card out quite nicely. We can add a little sentiment at the end, right? Now, when it comes to positioning this on, what I want to do is I want to get it built up to look a little bit three-dimensional. So the best glue to use for this, here we go, is the Floral 3D glue gel. Now, you've got a couple of choices when you're using the 3D glue gel. You can either apply it directly out of the tube. So can you see when we squeeze, it's going to come straight out of the tube. Or what you can do is if I have a little syringe, yep, we've got one here. So if you've got a syringe, and there's one comes if you get the 3D glue gel kit, what you can do is you can squeeze the glue gel into the syringe. So can you see I'm not going to fill it completely full, but I've filled it around about 2/3 full of the glue, and then the plunger goes into the end. You want enough for the plunger to grab, and then when we squeeze, it's going to come out the end, and it gives you that application which is much, much finer than using the end. Now, a little bit of a tip with the Floral glue then. Can you see inside we've actually used a little bit of glue out? So what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze it so that you've got the glue coming out of the edge. Then we're going to put the lid on, because what that means is we've squeezed all of the air out of that tube so that we've only got glue and no air, because it's the air that reacts to dry the glue, to set the glue, right? So that's going to go away in there. Now we're ready to put this down. So when I want to lie this on here, I'm going to squirt a couple of big globules. Now, the bigger the globule, it means the more raised up your design's going to be. So you see we're going to position that on there, and you can see just how raised it is. And then the idea is, you see that you're going to take your buttons, so various buttons that we've got, and we're going to position them in different places on the vase. Now what I'm doing with the button is I'm going to put the glue gel to the top and bottom of where the little holes are, so that we aren't getting that glue oozing out of the holes. Can you see? So I'm just going to position that in place. You can use your tweezers if you want, or I'm fairly confident popping these in place. And what you'll see is on each of the designs you've actually got it's kind of like a space where you'll see the little buttons will go, and you can just follow the little buttons as you're going, get everything, follow the design, get the patterns into place. So can you see this one there is going to go on the edge, and we've got a little bit of manoeuvrability time there with the glue gel. That's the beauty of it. You can just manoeuvre it into place as you're going along. There we go. We can just manoeuvre them into place. Now, while that's drying, I thought for the sentiment, you see, you've got these extra dies in the kit. And you'll see these on a lot of the cards that we've done. If you have a look in the gallery, you'll see where we've used these different dies to create like bases for where we're going to stamp and add our own sentiment. So I'm going to cut through, let's have a look, we're going to do a little bit in the green and the pink again, and a little bit in the white, so we can get all three of these, and we can cut through all three layers with the heart at once, especially if you're using your Gemini machine, okay? So I'm going to hold this die in place on all of the pieces of card. It's a very simple die, so we don't need an extra cutting plate. We're going to cut into the base. We're going to put our clear cutting plate on the top, then your magnetic, then you're going to put your top cutting plate on here as well, and then we can just offer it through the machine. Now I'm using here the large format Gemini, but these dies are small enough, they will go through your Gemini Junior, they'll go through your Gemini Go, and you can see there that has cut comfortably through all three layers of that cardstock, right? So put this to one side. All three layers of the card there. Take that out. And then just make sure the tape's off there as well. Now I'm going to use the top one for my sentiment, and then I'm going to shadow it with the two below it. So we're going to do the same again when it comes to stamping the sentiment as what we did on the first stamp piece. So we're going to stamp off onto it. We're going to rub over the surface of the stamp. Let's have a look, we'll find the matching stamp here. So we've got May Your Day Bloom with Happiness. We're going to take this and put this on the centre of the rocker block. We're going to bring in that little bit of Velcro and just give it a bit of a rub on the surface. Okay? So we know it's going to stamp well. It's a great habit to get into, to always rough stamp onto another piece of cardstock just the first time you use the stamp. So May Your Day Bloom with Happiness, that's stamping beautifully. We'll get that onto the little heart. And you can, the great thing with the rocker block is you can see through them, so you can position exactly where you want that sentiment. And then all we're going to do is I'm going to take my first couple of hearts and I'm going to do them flat, and I'm going to do my final one a little bit more dimensional. So this will come down here. We're going to drip that next one onto it and then put our final sentiment a little bit raised up. There we go. And I can use the glue gel again for this one. And it just finishes off that card beautifully well. And you can see how easy they are to do when you're working with these, and it's all about following what's in the stamp. And in that set you've got so many different stamps for you to work from, but it's always following that same concept of bringing in, just following the design and then replacing all the little missing gaps with buttons.